In this first video, we will analyze the characters of one of my favorite stories to understand how conflicts and characters work, so that you can apply it to your own story. Stick around until the end because I'll share with you 3 valuable tips to help you create your own story. Hey, I am Marcelo Seda, and I believe in a world where we are more conscious about the things we must improve, we know how to, and we do it. I believe stories can do that. I'm here to help you create the stories that make this world a better place. If you're not here, please make sure you click the subscribe button so our vision can go to the infinite and beyond. The characters in your story are one of the pillars of your narrative. They are the ones that the audience connects with, and if they are well crafted, they are the reason people get hooked and fall in love with the story. Therefore, it's crucial to ensure we write them well right from the start. We'll be analyzing some characters from Avatar the Last Airbender and their conflicts to understand how these elements work together so that you can write an amazing story. But first, since this is the first video in a series, I'll provide a somewhat lengthy introduction that will be useful to you. In the upcoming videos, I'll get straight to the point to save your valuable time. So, I've been writing my own story for a while now. I started with consuming videos on YouTube, tutorials, and later books. Every piece of relevant information I came across, I would grab my computer or pen and paper and apply what I just learned to my story. Now that I'm dedicated to this and want to help others build their great stories, I've encountered a significant problem. I can't remember most of what I've learned and applied. I mean, I have a lot of information in my head, but there are missing pieces and I don't have a guide. So, a few days ago, I decided to revisit those videos and books to create a guide for myself. This is where the second problem arises, and it's what I want to address with this video series. Each YouTuber has their own way of creating this character base and conflict using different terms like wants, goals, desires, beliefs, misbeliefs, false beliefs, the lie, inner conflict, internal conflict, philosophical conflict, etc. But what has concerned and confused me the most is that when they use movies as examples, sometimes things don't align with other movies we have seen or other stories we know. What I want to do is bring all that information together and connect it with different stories. These works are ones that I deeply appreciate and that I will enjoy deconstructing. However, to avoid falling into the same error as before, I want you to challenge me to analyze random stories to see if this knowledge also applies to them. Before we begin, I want to clarify one thing. As you saw at the beginning of the video, my vision with all of this is to build a world where we are more conscious about the things we must improve, we know how to, and we do it. And I believe stories can do that. So, how does this video align with that vision? Well, before we can change the world with our stories, we first need to fully understand how good stories work. This is a good place to start. Let's get started. The questions we ask our characters should serve us in creating what we know as conflict, the essential element without which there is no story, and without which people won't be interested in our work. I recognize 3 types of conflict: philosophical conflict, external conflict, and internal conflict. Philosophical conflict is the conflict between the character's beliefs, whether right or wrong. It is a conflict between characters' moral values and the worldview with another's. The external conflict is the obstacles the character face in the external world. And the internal conflict are the internal choices the character confronts when external conflict impacts directly in the character's fears, while pursuing his or her wants. Now, for the characters, I will be using 5 terms. Let's call these crucial elements the character base: belief, false belief, fear, wants, and comfort zone. Belief, what a person thinks is worth living and fighting for. False belief, the lie the character believes, which they must change to become a complete character. Fear, what the character will try to avoid at any cost. Want, the external desire that drives the plot as the character pursues a goal. Comfort zone, where he or she feels safe, where they don't take risks. Aang believes in seeking peace and joy. His false belief is that peace and joy come from avoiding conflict and his responsibilities as the Avatar. It is worth noting that this is entirely understandable given that he is a child burdened with a tremendous responsibility. His greatest fear is failing to fulfill his responsibility as the Avatar. He fears being unable to protect his friends, especially considering he is only 12 years old. His fear encompasses the terror of not being able to live up to expectations, mastering all 4 elements, defeating the Fire Lord, etc. He wants to have fun with his friends, escape, and avoid his destiny as the Avatar to evade conflict. Comfort zone, staying out of conflict with no training to become the Avatar, and enjoying himself without worrying about anything. Katara. Katara believes in justice and defending the helpless. That's why she takes the most initiative in helping Aang fulfill his destiny as the Avatar, to end the war caused by the Fire Nation. Her false belief at the beginning of the story, Katara believed that saving the world wouldn't be so complicated. That's why it becomes more impactful when they encounter with reality. Her fear. It seems that her greatest fear is also failing in her mission to stop the Fire Nation, as that would mean the continuation of injustices and oppression. She wants for her and Aang to become as capable, as strong as possible to save the world. Katara is a special case as she doesn't find it very difficult to constantly step out of her comfort zone. Zuko. Zuko believes in the pursuit of honor. He wrongly believes that honor comes from being accepted by his father and nation, since they are in the right position and they are good guys. That's why when his father banishes him, with the condition that he can only return by capturing the Avatar, he does everything possible to achieve that. I think that his greatest fear is not being accepted by his father. As that has already happened, his path focuses on regaining that acceptance. He wants to capture the Avatar himself by any means necessary. Zuko steps out of his comfort zone in 2 occasions, when he becomes an enemy of his own nation, which distances him further from his belief that his honor comes from his father and nation's acceptance, and when he realizes that his idea of honor is flawed and that his father and nation only cause harm. Ozai. Ozai believes in supremacy and power over others. His false belief, he believes in gaining that power by repressing others with violence. He doesn't really show fear of anything, although his greatest fear would obviously be the loss of power. He wants to take every necessary action to suppress other nations, eliminate the Avatar and anyone who stands in his way, manipulate his followers to do as he commands, etc. Ozai does not demonstrate having a comfort zone, which is one of the reasons why he has no internal conflict in the series, except when he loses his power. Now let's see how each type of conflict is created with each character. Let's start with the philosophical conflict. Aang. To make it as easy as possible to understand this conflict, I believe the best way is to merge both beliefs of the character. So it would be something like this. Aang believes in seeking peace and fun by avoiding conflict and responsibilities. With that in mind, let's see how this belief conflicts with others, with some examples. Katara pushes Aang to accept his destiny and do what he must to stop the Fire Nation and unite the 4 nations. This creates conflict with Aang's belief, as it puts him in a conflicted and highly pressured situation. In this case, we don't see the clash of beliefs between these characters until the end, where Zuko also encourages Aang to embrace his role as the Avatar and kill the Fire Lord, make him train hard, without the possibility of enjoyment and relaxation, which again puts more conflict and stress on Aang's shoulders. Ozai is the source of Aang's external conflict. He orders all his troops to repress other lands with violence, he ordered Zuko to capture Aang, he controls Azula, etc. Let's move on to Katara. Katara believes in justice and defending the defenseless, and that is not a very complicated path. Aang is Katara's greatest hope to prevent the Fire Nation from continuing its wrongdoings. With Aang, Katara hopes to save the world, to bring justice to all the victims. Before becoming family, Katara saw Zuko as a constant threat to her greatest hope, and also as a further embodiment of what the Fire Nation represents to her: injustice, repression, violence, the nation that took her mother away. Then Zuko becomes part of the team and they fight for the same purpose. Ozai is the ultimate representation of injustice and pain for Katara. He goes against her beliefs the most. Zuko. He believes in the pursuit of honor based on being accepted by his father and his nation, whom he believes are the righteous ones. Aang is the main barrier for Zuko to regain his honor. Without Aang, Zuko cannot return to his nation. Later, when Zuko realizes that true honor lies in doing what is right, Aang becomes his greatest ally. Since Zuko seeks acceptance as part of his honor, it is impactful because Katara was the first to accept him for who he is. Zuko needs Ozai to feel honorable at first, but then he must defeat him to truly regain his honor. Now, let's look at the external and internal conflict. These two go hand in hand, since internal conflict is basically when external conflicts directly attack the character's fears and prevent them from achieving their wants. Every malicious action by the Fire Nation frustrates him more than any other character, because he feels that the world is in that state because of him, and it keeps him tense without giving him a chance to enjoy life. When Zuko attacks Kyoshi Island, he also feels responsible. He realizes that by wasting time without progressing in his comfort zone, he put the island in danger. Whenever he faces difficulties in learning a new element, one can feel the terror that he doesn't feel capable of saving the world. And let's not forget when he was incredibly anxious, nervous, full of fear, and able to sleep because in the following days he had to face Ozai. All that weight fell on his shoulders. At that moment, he couldn't escape anymore, let alone have fun or rest. We can see his internal conflict every time he fails in his attempts to capture the Avatar. We can see how frustrated he is because he believes he is moving away from regaining his honor. When he sees the damage the Fire Nation has done to the Earth Kingdom, and when it was Zhao who captured Aang and not him, so he had to rescue him using a disguise. To avoid being redundant, I won't analyze Katara's internal and external conflict because it is very similar to Aang's conflict. Nor will I analyze Ozai because it is quite obvious, and also we cannot feel that internal conflict due to the limited portrayal of his character. If I see many comments asking for an analysis with all the important characters from Avatar, I will have it ready in the future. Bonus: 3 steps if you're just starting to write your story. Step 1, the most difficult, find a truth to tell, something that you personally have seen in others and in the world. Create different perspectives of that truth. And finally, create your characters based on those perspectives. This is what we call philosophical conflict. In the following videos, I will be analyzing the characters and conflicts in The Shawshank Redemption, Naruto, Harry Potter, Toy Story, and How to Train Your Dragon. All these examples, terms, and explanation of each term have been derived as I gathered information and analyzed Avatar. Therefore, as I continue to analyze other stories, many of these concepts may change at some extent. This first video is probably the most imperfect of all. With that in mind, I want to make a call for us to do this together, to give me your feedback and let me know if I made any mistakes. That way, we will be closer to understanding how great stories work perfectly. Later on, we will do the same with story structure, plot holes, etc. Follow me on my social media platforms where I assure that you will also learn valuable things, and support me so that more people have access to this information and, above all, so that more people hear about our vision.